what is now for me, what I would really love is this encouragement in the trust of our inner voice and inner knowing and inner nature.
Yeah.
Because we all have it. I really, truly believe that every woman has it. It's just a matter of very authentically kind of diving our way in it. I don't know how to describe it, but this is something that, I do feel that I can do.
Yeah. This is Mysticism's podcast, a space for incredible as well as life stories that speak to the mystical in you. The main archetype is a mystical woman and a priestess that lives in each and every one of us. Intuitive, knowing her inner universe, seeker of the truth, a witch. We want to touch deeply hidden parts of you that are desiring magic. Let it activate you, let it inspire you. Allow yourself to feel how creation moves through you. You will find yourself in these stories. Here, the goddess inside you will remember. We'll talk about the magic of the mundane, nature, women's wisdom, spirituality, and so much more. Listen to yourself. Okay, Mila, I'm so happy that you are joining me today on my podcast to have a conversation with me. I know this conversation is going to be amazing because I've gotten to know you a bit, like from bits and pieces, that we talked. And like I said before we started recording, I really do feel like you are representing the wild woman. You're living in the wilderness, and there's a lot of other things that will that are connected, I see, to this wild woman in you. And also I guess I just want to start with a bit of your story, to this path. Like, have you always been so open, how did you end up here in the wilderness and, having your third, okay, so having your third baby, completely free. So let's dive into your story. I really want to hear it.
Thank you so much. Yeah, Anya, I'm really happy to be here. Very excited also. And well, I love the first question because it's maybe surprising that I was, let's say, like in my early 20s, a fully embodied city girl, like full embodied, cup, high heels, music, going out, all of these things. I love the city, and I still do in a way. But yes, this was kind of part of me in a way, and nature was not really something that specifically attracted me. Insects neither, all these things for me was like, yeah, maybe one day when I'm retired. I do like animals, I do like the birds and things like this, but I was in a different story, in a different I don't know how to even say it, like paradigm maybe. So when I was young, I knew I would want to be a mom. I had this feeling, but I was also thinking, modern women nowadays, they have a C-section. Why would I even think about all of this horrificness of birth and all the pain and the suffering when I can just schedule a date, 3 months later, go back to my job? So, even my mom was suggesting to me, you're so sensitive, you're so whiny in a way, like, I don't see you really giving birth, naturally. So, and why would you even do this to yourself, basically? Like, protect yourself, protect your whatever it is, and do it the modern way. So this was before I met my husband today, who's my husband and the father of my kids. Because it was really him that was always very much living in nature in a way, in a little town, going with his friends to the river, making fire, cooking on fire. So for him, this was something very normal. Like, of course, this is what you do. The moment you have a free time, you go to the forest, you go to the nature. So with him, I started discovering. And yeah, so here I am today.
Wow.
More or less.
So can we
Yeah.
can we dive into your birth stories just, for a bit? Like, how was your first and second birth like?
So my first birth was beautiful. It was beautiful, even though it was in the hospital. But I was lucky that being here on this specific place where I'm right now, like this island in the Azores, I met several women that were giving birth naturally at home and that were sharing their stories. And I started to differently see, the possibilities and also what could be like the sense, what could be behind it, why actually it might matter a lot how we choose to give birth. So I was feeling this wish to really be alone in my birth, even with my first pregnancy. And I was 27 and very much lost in the world still, but already here, living in nature, building our own house. Like there was a sense of like remembering in a way of what it also means to be human, other than like this delusional world of excitement and overstimulation. So I read one book that was only birth stories. I think it was called Simply Give Birth. And I was very inspired by all those stories that were just spontaneous births. Like it's an event in your life, it happens, and then it's done. And then you're a mother. But still, there was a lot of fear, so much fear inside of me. So then here on this island, we don't have a hospital. There is also no midwives. What women do is they go on a neighboring island and then they stay there. They rent a place. When the baby is about to come, they go to the hospital and then they return back home, like literally flying from island to like give birth. So there was a friend that gave birth a few months before me and I knew kind of the procedure. So this is what we also did. We traveled to this island and I was a little bit late. We had some winds, we couldn't fly. Now looking back, I was already entering the birth portal. I didn't know, but I was already going there. And it was only the beginning of the 9 months. So then arriving there on this island, my water started kind of leaking bit by bit. First, I was surprised what it was. I thought I peed myself one morning, but then I realized, no. And I was so lucky to have a friend, very beautiful friend of mine. We studied together and she recently gave birth to her second baby. And she told me, look, Mila, this is the water. Like it's not broke, but there is maybe a little hole. It's leaking. And honestly, if you ask me, the longer you stay home, the better, because there is like this policy in the hospital. Once it's open, you have a certain time and then it would be probably induced or like, made sure that you agree that it's going to be induced.
Yeah, it's the same all over the world, the procedures. Yeah.
So, and I had the feeling also that everything was okay between those moments of, what's happening. I felt really deeply that everything was fine, that I can just chill it out. And so I did. But then 3 days later, I had an appointment in the hospital that I needed. And that's also maybe an interesting detail because in Austria, you receive money after having a baby, but only if you show certain exams from the doctor in the pregnancy and in the first year of the baby's birth. So I thought, okay, then I should do this, to receive the money. But also this was kind of a choice, I could have stayed home if I wanted, but I wasn't ready. So I kind of had this excuse of, I need the money, so I will do it. It's like those little mind games, that sometimes we do just because we have to also have this experience. So I was there and I said about the water because I was kind of afraid to not say anything at all. But I didn't say the length of time. I said, well, a little bit. And then I remember this woman, she was there with the ultrasound. She was so worried. Her face was so tense. And I was just freaking out. I was asking her, is it like, what's happening? What's wrong? It's like, no, but she was so focused. And I don't know, this was maybe just her attitude, nothing personal. But for me, it was like, what's not right? And then she was doing this exam, the cervical exam, and this is the first time I felt a lot of pain. It was so uncomfortable. She didn't tell me she was going to do this. It was just like this, you know? And it was a pain physical, but also sheer. I felt, wow, it was not nice. But yeah, basically she told me that already I was open, kind of. I don't know how much. And that, yeah, I'm about to have the baby and I may as well just stay there in the hospital. So my husband was very excited in the waiting room. So he went fishing on like a coast nearby. And then when he came back, he already heard me there with the nurses getting ready in my room. And I tried to laugh with them, but I was so nervous. And I was waiting for him to come, just for them to tell that he has to leave. He cannot stay because the labor isn't really progressing. So then I was like, a little bit devastated. And he brought me a lot of food from the shop because I thought I should eat. I didn't have dinner. Like, it was a bit of this confusion. Then they came with the antibiotics. They put me the syringe. They wanted to monitor the heartbeat of the baby. And all of this was so stressful. It was loud. I didn't enjoy hearing like this sound. And when he left, I just asked them to leave me alone in the room so I could sleep and to put down the sound of the heartbeat so I could rest. And they were surprised, like, what? But I was very firm about it. I needed to be alone and cry because I was really crying when my husband left. I was very scared also, like super scared. And being there in this room, I was mostly scared that if the baby doesn't start coming soon, I will have to have a whole lot of like issues with those people around. But then I was also lucky that I played some music. I really went inner, like what I do when I'm anxious. Like, I really just breathe and feel, and I start to feel more and to feel more, and suddenly I couldn't be laying down anymore, and I start to be like, oh, it's happening, she's coming. And from that moment of this realization, like, the birth has started, I can feel it. Wow, I have goosebumps all over every time I remember this moment. It was just a beautiful dance, the most heart-opening, divine experience, most natural experience in the same time. And it was very fast. At some point, it was so intense that I noticed that I'm going in different, like, I was not anymore really like focused mentally. So then I called the midwife to ask if I can call my husband. I had this feeling that if he doesn't come now, he might not be in the birth. So she wanted to do the check. I didn't really want it, but it's okay. Like, I just surrendered to it. It was painful again. It's very interesting because the birth itself, I didn't feel it as painful. There was a lot of intensity to it, but I would never use the word pain. And then she told me, yeah, you got to call him now. And I don't even know how I did it. I don't remember. I just saw the call later in my phone. I called him. I said, you have to come now. I hung up the phone and I went into the trance, into the shower, feeling so much gratitude and crying from gratitude. It was like this all the time, this feeling, the more it's pushing, the more it's contracting and opening, the closer my baby is to really joining me here. And it was a huge bliss. So then very quickly, the end of the birth was that, they saw that I was already going into transition. I took all the clothes out. I asked them to take out this thing that was attached to my arm. I really needed to be in the corner of the room. So I went in the corner of the room and I changed the sounds, when like, and then they were a little bit in panic for some reason. They wanted me to be in the room for the delivery. So I was there on the bed, and then again, laying down, I start feeling pain, strong discomfort, in pain. I was not wanting to lay down, but my body was starting to push already. So somehow then I remember there was more nurses. They kind of put me on this birthing chair, what it is. And then I was a little bit disembodied in that moment. I think all of this distraction and moving and confusing was just, but my body was anyways giving birth, so everything was okay. And then I remember my husband coming in. He was like, but the head was already crowning. So he just really came in the last moments. And so then I knew, wow, like so much distraction. I don't want this anymore. Like,
Yeah.
so much
Yeah.
sabotage.
While you were talking, I was thinking about, how every birth is sacred, like really sacred. It doesn't matter where it happens. It's not that hospital birth is less valuable than, home birth or whatever, but there's this thing where, I want women to know that you can give birth in peace, just like you said, like, there are distractions and there is risk of interventions and yeah. So what did you do for your second birth then?
So for my second birth, I knew I wanted to be alone with my husband and my daughter and our dog. And I also knew that I was not quite ready to don't have any safety net around. So this was also clear. And I also knew that it's not going to be here on the Azores, where like she was born in the neighboring island. So then in the meantime, there was this house that we bought in Austria. And I had the feeling that this could be a nice place. I felt kind of safe in this and knew the system, how it works. I could have a midwife. And knowing that I could call her for it was already another sense of, okay, I have like some safety net built around me. And then very shortly after I was pregnant again with my son, Ella was 4 years old. So yeah, I had a little break between, but I was still doing with him all the exams to receive the money. And then I called a midwife. I got a really nice reference, beautiful woman, just really amazing, very lovely. But in the same time, when we had this conversation about, I was asking her very honestly, what is it that you're gonna do, in the birth? Because I told her my first story, and I told her that everything disturbed me. Everything that was done, that was asked, that was wanted from me, I didn't want any of it, and I don't think I needed it. I didn't know really, because how could I know? But my feeling was, no, you just leave me alone. If I need something, I will ask. And then she looked at me very seriously and said, like, yes, after every stronger contraction, we do have to hear the heartbeat of the baby. And she was like looking concerned in a way, like, if you don't let me, I will probably have to convince you, because this is my legal obligation. Because in case something, that she needs to have some reliability, or I don't know how to call this, not for me, but for who she's responsible to, or who she's working for, which is the medical system,
That's so typical, you cannot serve two masters. You cannot serve the woman and the medical system. And I've had the same experience with my home birth, where I was giving responsibility in the hands of my midwife, you know what I mean? And so, of course, I wanted her to save me if something went wrong. So she had this huge responsibility. I didn't know I put it on her, but I did. And so, yeah, and now she has this burden of, I need to save this, baby. I need to, and so, yeah, you cannot serve two masters in a way. Like, she can go to jail if she doesn't doesn't do certain procedures, and so yeah,
it's a very delicate situation. Because from woman to woman, we really want to support, but at the same time, it's a job. There is legal obligations, and this is what we kind of sign up for. It's very simple in a way. But then, I also knew that ideally, I'm just, gonna call her later.
I know,
And this is how it was. It was, Ella's birth was maybe 3.5 hours from me noticing, like, okay, now it's happening. Vuk's birth was 2 hours, more or less. But I felt it before already. I felt it was coming, and I could know more that, okay, this was it. I don't know if I mentioned, both were born, like, Ella was 36 weeks, he was 37 weeks, plus maybe 1-2 days. So very, very small, very thin babies, really delicate.
Yeah.
And with him, I had a birth pool. I was thinking that would be nice to give birth in the water. So I barely made it to the pool. I was in the living room with Ella already before she fell asleep. We were drawing, and I could feel there was this state coming in again, like a very flowy state. Everything was calm, easy, in tune. So much love, so much gratitude. It was there. But now I was home, so I could really bring this feeling to me and my daughter. My husband was making fire. He knew. I told him, I think it's gonna be tonight. So he was a bit excited, but he's very grounded, very stable man and human being. So then I remember being on the floor and again feeling a certain intensity. But what I was doing is I was on my back doing like the bridge a lot. With every sensation, I was literally opening my hands, my legs. My body was like this huge opening that I felt in his birth. In all my being. It was a very cosmic experience with him. And the way he is, I can see it a bit, the link.
So you were alone.
Then,
you didn't call the midwife. You were alone already.
No, we were alone. Just a family evening. Actually, she was supposed to come the next day for a regular meeting at, I think, 8 a.m. So I was already thinking, it's nice. Maybe she's going to come and everything is done. But I had no idea how long it's going to take because Ella's birth was fast and I wasn't sure if it's because of the setting, because of whatever. So then I was going to the toilet quite frequently, for the cleansing and then kind of getting ready for the water. And I had this vision how I'm going to surrender to the water, to the bliss and all of this. But I was literally on the toilet when I started feeling the first huge push. Like it was so strong, it was so sudden that I just put my hand down in like instinct. I ran into the pool and literally during the jump into the pool, there was the second sensation coming, which then I was stationary. Like if I wasn't running, then he would be born in the bathroom, like on the toilet, next to the toilet. I don't know, but
so typical.
And there was yes, yes. From that point, you don't move nowhere anymore, like physically. So it was beautiful. My husband came because he saw me running, and I was just saying, "He's coming, come!" And then what should he do? And I just asked him to pour water over me because he had no time to really fill the pool. So I was there holding on the pool. It was again very intense. Yeah, and he was pouring the water, and then I felt to just put my hand down, and I could feel his head, and I was crying again. And then he was born, like very quickly, very easily, the head and then the rest. And with his birth, I could really feel this, like the spiraling out of the baby.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
It was super beautiful. And I took him in my arms. It was with a sound that when he came out, I made like a sound, what was like between like an excitement and a relief in the same time. I don't remember it, but he told me. And then he was there and he cried a bit. And it's only then when my husband realized that the baby was born. Until then, he was still busy with the water, pouring it over my back. And I was like with one knee down and one knee up. So in this kind of position. And then we were there both crying. And he was tiny, small. He had a cord around the neck and around the arm, but very loose. So we noticed it and we untangled him. Then he was sneezing. He was cold. So yeah.
Wow.
That was then his birth. Maybe what's interesting to say is that the placenta came like quite later. And I think 4 hours later. And it was in that moment, and he was super happy. Like he was breastfeeding, he peed, he pooed, and he fell asleep. Super calm, very nice. But I was having, like, for me, the pain started. The same was with Ella, but with him much more after giving birth. Like after the baby was born, for me, the pain started. I think before that, I was just in a state of, I don't know, trance, something different. So then it was so painful that I was asking him to massage me, and my husband was so confused. You're asking me to massage you now, but the baby is born. So I was laying down and I didn't know that it could be maybe good to just stimulate the placenta to come out, to do something about it actively. I didn't, so it was kind of intense and painful. And after some hours, yeah, I start to feel like not worried, but like it's not coming out. And I had to pee and I felt a bit of burning when peeing. So I thought, I was not sure. And I was not prepared for all of this after. I was only listening the podcast until the moment when they give birth. For me, this was the only thing.
Yeah.
So after, I did call the midwife then to tell her that I know that she's about to come, but that the baby was already here. It wasn't waiting for her. And she's like, oh, wow. But also like, what?
Yeah.
And I also told her that placenta isn't born yet. But everything's okay. And then I think she felt a bit worried, but also probably because I was very calm talking to her. There was no emergency. She also knew that it was okay, but she had to tell me that actually now she should call the ambulance. But in the same time, she's coming. But she needs me to tell her that I do not want the ambulance. And this is what I told her. What are they going to do that you're not going to do? Or I'm not like, what are they trained to do with a woman that gave birth? They can only put me to the hospital and, like it made no sense. But the call with her stimulated something in me like, okay, no, I have to complete this now. So I asked my husband to put some music. I sit on the ball and I start to move. And like, I don't know, 10 seconds later, placenta's born. Plop, exactly. Huge relief. Birth complete. And I call her like, yeah, everything's done. I'm waiting for you. So yeah, this was Book's birth.
Beautiful. Wow. This is so nice. Are you enjoying
Yes,
talking about
super
your
nice.
Okay,
Every time.
Yeah. So okay, let's go now to your last birth story. So now you're in Azuri on the island. Okay.
So it was a bit surprising because I was pregnant a year and 2 months maybe after the first birthday of my son, and it was not really intended consciously. So but yes, had to be like this. So I had also a very nice preparatory kind of vision of, like, in a way that I knew this was meant to be, and this is very like important. It's like an announcement of the baby, so to speak. So when then I was really pregnant, I remembered immediately this vision that I had, and then I knew, okay, this is it. I'm gonna do this. And it was intense in a way, having a little baby and a kid and living kind of off-grid the way we do, but in the same time, it's what it is. So I said after Book's birth that if ever I'm gonna have again a baby, I will do it completely on my own terms. This was clear for me. Because I don't know, it was this strong, clear feeling.
What about prenatal visits? Did you have those?
Including this? No, I didn't. I wasn't sure if I'm gonna have, but the thing was, for me, I will not do it according to any system, and for no money, this just makes no sense. So if I need a check, if I need something, I will go when I need it to whom I trust and see from there. But I will not submit myself and this baby to anything that actually doesn't really serve me and my feeling and my needs. So I didn't. And all along the pregnancy, I never did. I have a very lovely friend that I asked her one day if she was giving me like a reflexology massage. And then I asked her if she feels to put her hands on the baby and feel and tell me what she feels. So this was my only kind of, from woman to woman moment of somebody feeling the baby, and just really encouraging me that, like, I'm so proud of you, the way you want to do this, and this is so beautiful. So this was it. I did not intend to give birth here, like mentally, because I really like the comfort of the house we have in Austria, like the warm water in the house, the toilet in the house, comfortable bed, everything like cozy. And here it's not the case. But we did make the house more comfortable than it was, I would say. But yes, the toilet is outside, the hot water, we need to make fire for it. It was already winter, like it's very stormy here. But the thing is that I went on a trip with my kids to my sister to Spain. And when I came back, my husband was 1 month working on the house. Really, really beautiful. So he was with the kids and I had a siesta up in the room. And I was so happy to be home and I love the place so much. And then from here, from my belly, I start to have the feeling, why don't you give birth here? It was so strange because it was not even, I was having all the other plans, like even other islands, but just to stay home, but be close to the hospital in case, or be in a comfortable house, whatever was my plan, but the feeling was clear. Why not here? It's even rhymes. So it was this feeling that finally was directing the flow. Before I was really resisting this idea, but then nothing was opening. No apartment was coming. Austria, I didn't want. This I didn't like. It was not meant to be. So then I decided, okay, this is where then I guess it's gonna be. I don't really know. What can you do when you have like those feelings, but your mind is a little bit confused? And in the same time, there is this knowingness that you just go step by step and you see.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Wow, this really represents, a woman who knows, who is connected to her body, and who knows her inner voice. So you listen to that inner voice, me as a birth worker, I really want to focus on this area, preparing for birth, the way, to prepare to birth, I see it as, you coming home to yourself, being in touch with your body and going inwards in your inner world and prepare from that space, knowing to listen to your intuition and all of that. I think that's the most important thing, when you are preparing for birth. And so, yeah, you just knew that you have to give birth there.
Yes. And even like, until the moment he was born, I still was not, like, I couldn't make the picture really up in my mind. I had a birth pool prepared, a friend of mine borrowed it, and I had kind of this plan, but still there was, and I think this is also that being pregnant is really a different state of being. It is another kind of surrender and another kind of being.
Yeah.
The veil. State, so
the veil is very thin.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So one more question. Were you ever scared of, like, death, or if something, were you ever scared of anything?
Every time, all the time.
Okay.
Before I was born, my mom had a baby that there was something not okay. So that baby was born with 8 months and was dead. And then I came and she was very young. And I think not just because of that, I think that this fear is something like for everybody very present because we do not know it. Who knows it? Wherever you go, whatever you do, nobody can give us the guarantee of what's going to be and how. But I feel it very intense in me, like this confrontation with death since always, then in pregnancy a lot. With this baby, like love, my third one, like I think every day, at least once, I went into the loop of making sure that I'm not insane and that I'm not irresponsible and it's also nice because he would sleep and I would rest. The fear would come. I would go in this, whatever it is, progress, let's call it, with yourself, making sure, and then just ask, can you? And then already he's moving. So we were communicating all the time in this way. Like it was not one time that I went into the fear and I kind of released it, that he wasn't confirming, yep, I'm here. It's okay. You keep going. So it was very beautiful, this dance.
Yeah, wow.
But
And
for
so,
sure,
yeah. Interesting,
the
yeah.
thing of the dance was very, and also here, knowing that if something were to be, there was no place to really go. And it was a real like confrontation to the full responsibility of doing this the way I felt and taking whatever comes from it. But also knowing, and this was something that I had very early when I had this feeling that it's going to be here, or then actually wherever, even if it weren't to be an alive baby and I would have to deal with this, I'd still rather be doing it in my integrity and being there, allowed to be fully present with the situation.
Yeah.
And this is another big thing because it's also a right in a way. And it's very delicate, the subject, I know, but yeah.
Yeah, our culture fears death and we fear getting old, and and so that's why the first thing is to, oh my God, what if something happens? Why these are our first thoughts, but yeah, it shouldn't have been like this, but it's the way the culture is. So that's okay, so how was your last birth? You were completely alone with your family.
Yeah, I'm lucky that all the three kids were born in the almost the same hour in the morning. It was like, this is like a pattern. Yeah, we all went to sleep. I was starting to be very tired of the pregnancy. I was peeing all the night. I was tired. I was uncomfortable. I had a huge belly. I wasn't sure if it's even twins or not.
Oh,
it was
yeah.
heavy. My ligaments were hurting. It was kind of close, the pregnancies, and I didn't really take care of myself, enough, let's say, to be physically completely, strong and ready. Anyways, we all went to sleep and I went into this already half sleep and suddenly there is the water, a lot of water. It's like so much water. And I didn't know it from the two previous births. Ella was a bit leaking. Vuk, nothing. I think all his water came with him, in the pool. But now it was a lot. And I cannot describe the feeling of terror that I felt with this water. I still, after everything was done and I was still thinking, why was I so terrified? Like physically, I was terrified. So I took a blanket, I put it there, and I'm like, oh my goodness, so much water. This is the water. And I'm like, oh, I'm gonna give birth. What is this? So I went to the toilet. Everybody was sleeping, including my husband. And I'm sitting on the toilet and I'm shaking, like this feeling of my whole body is shaking. And I don't really know why. I know that nothing's wrong. It's just the water. I'm 37 weeks, close to 38 weeks pregnant. Of course, I was ready to have the baby 2 weeks ago still. And I go back to bed and then all the confrontation. What if he doesn't come? What if not now? What if I stay like this for 2 days? There is no water, a lot of water left. Like, wow, so many fears. And in the same time, I know everything's okay. So I go again into breathing and just calming down as much as I could. And then going into this state again, the same like with Ella and also like with Vuk, I start to feel like as those contractions that I was having all the time were coming, I start to feel like waves going towards down, stronger. It was the first time I felt it like this. And then I knew, okay, it's happening. It started. Okay, now I can, go with this flow. And then I woke up my husband. Already I calmed down a little bit, not completely. And when I woke him up, he was like, oh, what? Like, he normally doesn't wake up like this. It's like he also knew. And then I told him, well, the thing is, and I try to be kind of fakely calm. I
Oh,
don't know
yeah.
how to describe it. I think it might be happening now, the birth. I'm not sure though, because it's not really intense, but maybe we get ready. And then if not, it's okay. We just have a nice day.
Mm.
And it's like, okay. So then he was on the mission for the water, because there was fire to make in the house, fire to make for the water, the tubes to attach, everything. And he was very happy being busy with the water. And I was still trying to help him in the beginning, but as I was going again from toilet to the house, naked outside in the land, in the forest, I started to feel the intensity growing. And then we had a little situation that was like, we tried the tube and everything was perfect, but not with hot water. So when he started filling the pool, all the algae came.
Oh.
It's like, it's those situations where you're thinking, wow, we never thought about this.
Yeah.
So take out the pool, empty the water, bring it back in, clean it. Then he tried to clean the pipe, make some filter. And in that moment, I already noticed for the second emptying of the pool, because there was still algae coming, I couldn't help him anymore. I had to go to the sofa and I was on all four. And it was interesting that it was the most physically aware birth of all the three.
Wow.
I was so physically aware of everything that was happening. It was also maybe the most that I would describe as painful, because the fears were still coming. In every moment when I could have relaxed, there was like, but what if? I read a book. This is very crazy, but I read a book during the pregnancy where they were talking about Siamese twins and like deformities.
Oh.
So sometimes in the pregnancy, one of the fears was, but what if it's like glued twins?
Yeah.
Then I felt that it was a head, that it was one head, obviously. But what if it's a head and two bodies?
Oh
then
my
I'm gonna die.
God.
Then there is no way that I can do this,
Yeah.
And as much as I knew that this is ridiculous,
Mm.
it was still coming. It was coming during the birth. Those thoughts were coming. But are you sure that it's only one body?
Yeah.
I am in a way, but also I'm not. I never had an ultrasound. I don't have anybody to confirm this. So then finally the pool was done and he wanted to play some music from the radio and I couldn't believe it. It's like, no way, turn this off. Like, what is this music? And then he played whale and dolphin songs, like a very calm music with their sounds. And this was perfect. So I went in the pool and I stayed there a bit, again doing the same movement like with Wook, the other like opening to, like my arms were hurting after, and my knees also. There was this big opening and then going on all four and the transitioning sounds like this roaring, like, and then it was beautiful also, this birth for me in specific, because in both previous births my husband was kind of around, but I was not really needing him or even looking at him, or I was kind of in this thing of my own. But when love was about to emerge, I was literally holding on him, like on his shoulders, and I felt him like a rock for me, like this. I don't know how to describe it. It was very beautiful. And then it was very intense, the birth. And in between, I was crying again. And it was this complete, I cannot describe this feeling, but every mother knows it, I believe, in a way, like, wow, this is the miracle of life.
Yeah.
Such an honor to be able to do this and to be given the gift, really, to do this. And that actually this is what every woman is doing, giving birth physiologically, like vaginally. It's just unbelievable how natural and how amazing it is. So, and then he was also crying and we were both crying and it was so beautiful. And then he was born and
Wow.
It was
What about the placenta?
And yes, so again, it was beautiful. He was nursing, very loud, very like he was shouting and super much there immediately, very like also grounded, as grounded as the birth was in a way. It's the way also that he is, and he came. But then I left, like I wanted to go out of the pool again. I was uncomfortable, and then And the same thing like Book. So he nursed, he peed, he pooed, he fell asleep. So for him, he was, but I went into even stronger pain. Like, come on, I couldn't believe it. Then again, please massage me. He was doing this massage that normally you do for women in labor, No, stronger. No. And then I knew that the placenta needs to go out. This is the moment. So I did pull a little bit the cord. Not like, it was not really like, I don't know how to describe it. It wasn't ripping it out, but it was just giving it a pull.
Yeah,
and it was interesting because, yes, there was the blood that came first. And I wasn't complete, like, I felt something and I felt a release. And I thought, this is it. But then I felt the cord inside. So there was a little moment of panic. It was just blood. But what? And then I knew, of course, the blood came because the placenta is huge. The baby was huge. So I pulled a little bit more and the placenta came. And it was done. And yeah, then we had maybe 1 more hour to be there on the sofa. And I was, just with still having the pain, but not, it was like, I knew this is what's going to be. So I could also just take it and have food and a tea and already start kind of coming back slowly. Then our son woke up and he came. The first thing was like, wow, trying to poke the eye of the baby. So, he went to eat with his father. And then my daughter woke up and she was completely like, she couldn't believe it. She was so happy. She didn't leave my side. She was so in love with the baby. And it was very beautiful. But yes, another day in our family life.
Yeah.
Weirdly.
Wow. Yeah. And so now your mission is to help women, to support women in this moment. Is it? Or are you just interested
I'm not sure
in
yet exactly.
Okay. Yeah.
You know why? Because I'm still discovering. So I had this feeling that I needed to be alone with my husband for the birth. And I have a very beautiful friend that was in a birth with another friend, like really like an attendant in her service. And she knew, of course, we're very close. We're sisters in a way. So she was asking, if you want, I can come and I would love to be in your birth. But all the time I had to tell her, I don't really know. Like, I wouldn't want you to stay close in case, because I might not call you to be there. It was not my feeling the first 2 times. So I'm not sure about this time. And it wasn't. I didn't want anybody there. So now when I'm thinking, what could I do for other women? It's, if there would be something, it's yes, to be present if somebody would want it, but I'm also a little bit terrified. Very honest.
Sure. Yeah.
I ask myself this question because it's another kind of responsibility. But I am intrigued, of course. And if this will be the flow and the way, I think I will do it, because it is like this kind of calling. Then you do answer it, because again, you feel it. But what is now for me, what I would really love is this encouragement in the trust of our inner voice and inner knowing and inner nature. Because we all have it. I really, truly believe that every woman has it. It's just a matter of very authentically kind of diving our way in it. I don't know how to describe it, but this is something that, I do feel that I can do.
Yeah. It's the same, like I said, like you are representing the wild woman archetype, And I was thinking, I want to become her. I want to be this wild woman. But no, the thing is that she lives in each and every one of us, and we just need to like discover and dive into her and let her, how do you say this? Let her move through us. Yeah. Right. So, yeah. And
because this was that feeling in birth. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but my body was giving birth. There was no thought, no mental anything that was needed for this to happen. And this is just, that's what it is. And that's what is so beautiful. And I heard so many times when they say that every birth is in a way the same, but it's never the same, because every woman is still having this experience. So
And
Yeah.
also your birth is a great representation of how birth happens, even if you're afraid, even if, you know, you feel fear. Like that is not, fear doesn't destroy your birth, or, you know, yeah, so that's beautiful. Also,
But what I felt was the relationship between fear and pain. Really, this was in the last birth. But a lot deeper surrender. Mentally, I thought I had like a safety net. And here the confrontation was so persistent from my mind. Like even the moments literally before I was completely open, the crazy thought of the two bodies was coming to me. So this confrontation was like contracting me in a way that I couldn't. It's still beautiful and blissful and the way it had to be, but this kind of orgasmic sensation, I only felt it when he was emerging, and already like it was happening. All the time before, there was this like not resistance, but I think there was, I'm not completely yet clear what it was, but like right after I felt it was the fear and not completely being able to let go with those things, and then was kind of
it's exactly what
something that was just not so clear.
Yeah, it's exactly what I'm learning now, actually, how fear and pain are related, and how if you don't surrender to it, like if you resist to it, it's what makes it is what is making it painful. You know what I mean? It's exactly what you're describing, so it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, it creates some kind of resistance where we try to hold on to something that it's not like, just makes no sense really. But then of course we need to have certain experiences, we're gonna have them, and then it does have a sense. But in the nature of things,
oh wow,
I don't see you for some reason, I don't know why.
Yeah, you are frozen for me as well, but I can hear
my internet
you.
was
Yeah.
You're back now, I see you.
Before we finish, I just want to, like, is there anything that you would like to say to women listening to your story? You know, anything in these realms, before we finish?
Well, maybe it's really just this, like allowing ourselves to really feel and to feel our inner knowing. Because also believed what I was told, that I'm too sensitive to give birth, and actually this is what made my birth so special and so deeply blissful, this sensitivity, because it's all about this. If we're able to accept and surrender to our emotions but not be kind of enslaved by them, and we're in a different kind of flow, and then we are just what we are. So instead of believing that being very sensitive was a weakness, today I know that it's a huge strength. Like being sensitive to ourselves and to the world, it's like what we are as human beings, and what I am as a woman, and this is supposed to be like that. This is just like an amazing thing that makes me human, and that
that's beautiful.
It's so very natural but very mystical in the same time.
It is very mystical.
And whoever believes that they cannot do it, maybe listen to people. I was listening to many podcasts as well, just because not everybody comes full power. Yes, I can do it, I will do it. I was not this kind of person, and yet I remember that actually I was. Yes.
Yeah. That's so beautiful. Thank you, Mila, so much for this conversation.
Thank you for this conversation.
For sharing this. I feel very honored. You know, I always love listening to birth stories, and it's so sacred.
Thank you very much. I feel very honored to be invited and heard, and always love sharing these kind of things. And in the sharing, there is a lot of value. I really believe it.
Yeah.
From our experiences and from woman to woman in a way. And family to family and everything.
The codes are in the story, you know.